She is finally here. The Uma that has been hyped since day one of the global release as the Uma that ends all Umas, with one of, if not the strongest uniques in the entire game, insane base stats, and having one of the most, if not most popular Uma animes in 2025. And there's the other girl. Hey guys, umamusume here, and before we start, there is one thing that needs to be mentioned. Always choose your Oshis over your meta. If you want to like a certain Uma and pull for her, do not be discouraged that she is not meta. Also, on top of that, Christmas Oguri is gonna be part of the selector in the future, so that's gonna be that. With that out of the way, let's jump straight into the overview as to why are so many trainers from like the JP or the previous servers talking about this specific Uma ever since the day of its launch. Christmas Oguri is an Uma that can be working as both a late surger and pace chaser with 15% stat growth in both speed and stamina. This makes it much easier for players and casuals to build for longer distances, having the same attribute as the original counterpart, and her unique skill, Festive Miracle, is a flexible skill when it comes to activation conditions, as she needs to be in the second half of the race and 3 recovery skills. But what exactly does this do? As you can see over here, it increases your speed by 0.25, acceleration by 0.3, as well as stamina recovery by 0.035, which is pretty much gonna be the same as the inherited version of Pure Heart, i.e. Super Creek's unique skill. Now you get all of those effects for 5 entire seconds, making it, definitively speaking, one of the strongest uniques in the entire game. Now taking a look at 2 possible scenarios in which the unique can activate, the first one is when we just slap on 3 recoveries without considering when they activate. So for example, CM7 Tokyo 2000 mark, you can see that for most of the cases of the second half of the race, it will start way before the late race. While yes, you are getting the benefits from the unique, the effects could get wasted because you rely on RNG to activate the recovery skills, hoping it pops in late enough, so that you benefit from it as much as possible, which then brings us into the second scenario. You realize that the problem from scenario 1 that we talk about is always an issue. What do you actually do? You simply get recovery skills that always activate at the same position every single time. And Christmas Oguri actually has access to one of those recovery, namely the 777s. Now 777 by itself isn't really that crazy of a recovery. It has been with us since day 1 of the multi-card with card, and no one really used it that much because it doesn't really activate at the right instances for uniques like Christmas Oguri to make use of. Now with Christmas Oguri, a wide recovery skill that always activates at the last 777 meter. So if you go back to CM7, you can see over here, by using corner recovery, hydrate, and 777s, we effectively delay the activation of the unique so that the second half of it extends into the late race. Now do keep in mind that for a unique to activate consistently, you need to give Oguri as much width as humanly possible, so really going for the width training, especially the new scenarios nowadays. And recently I just came back to umamusume, I realized that people are still running the Umas on like sub 400 width in like I think it's 2026, which is honestly a little bit diabolical. Her unique is really strong if utilized correctly, and she has access to some decent skills, but what about the other Christmas Uma that is on the battle? Now for Christmas Biwa, it is gonna be a pace chaser Uma with 16% stat growth in stamina and power, while also having 8% stat growth in width. So just like with Oguri, her aptitudes are the exact same as the original Biwa, but her unique presence from X is definitely not as flexible compared to Christmas Oguri. So for her to activate, she can never be in a position worse than 4th after the first 5 seconds of the race, and she cannot be in the first position, and she has to be in the second half of the race later on, and she is in the mid-race. So because of all these conditions, this is extremely difficult to pull off, especially because she is going to be a pace chaser Uma, but if there are too many front runners and pace chasers, you are almost not going to be able to pop this. So regarding what this unit actually does, it simply increases your target speed by 0.35 for 5 seconds. So if you were to take a look at the CM7 track once again, if we assume that everything falls into place and you fulfill every single one of these conditions, it should activate right after you enter into the second half of the race, somewhere around the mark part of the race itself. The skills that increase your target speed can be activated pretty much anywhere, and they will most likely not be wasted. It is the same case over here. So it does give you a decent amount of speed increase, and it lasts for quite a while, so it probably would be quite useful, right? While it technically will be useful, you are definitely going to have to put in a little bit more effort when it comes to making this unique pop off in the first place. So skills like Professor of Curvature, It's On, or Super Stand can increase your target speed by the same amount. So while yes, their effects last for a short amount of time, they have a much more reliable activation condition as compared to Christmas Biwa over here. So we'll talk about how you can counteract this issue in just a little bit. So that is going to be the brief overview of what Christmas Oguri and Christmas Biwa is going to be doing as of this kind of recording. So we're just going to talk about essentially what are their potentials at this point for both of these Umas. So for Christmas Oguri's Ace Potential, although she needs 3 recovery, she actually already has a built-in 4 recovery skill in the base kit, which is 777's Shake It Out, which is basically the exact same as Tail Held High, but it recovers stamina and activates at a later race instead, a small breather as well as the Gourmand/Hydrate combo. So in most cases, to make sure you have enough skill points for other skills, you should go for 3 white recoveries. While buying Gourmand alongside 2 white recoveries gives you better odds at surviving for especially longer races, you are effectively wasting at least 120 skill points just to upgrade a skill that you have already bought. So in most cases, having what's essentially 5 white recovery skills should be pretty much enough for almost every single track. And when it comes to what white recoveries you can use to activate a unique, 777 is literally a must-have for the consistent activation. As for the rest, you can get any 2 of the following white recoveries, which is Corner Recovery, Hydrate, Uma Square, which is Taekion's unique, but if you plan to pull her for CM8, which is going to be Arima Kinan, Nagayama 2500 meter, you're in luck because Oguri has access to 2 events that gives her Winter Runner and Nakayama Racecourse. She also has the ability to access Innate Experience, a gold skill that increases your speed by 0.35 for 3 seconds, and for this thing, you need to be in a long track, be in the final corner, and be running next to the inner fence of the track itself. So now that we know what she has, what cards can we give to Christmas Oguri? Now the following example will be a build specifically for the upcoming CM8. With Oguri's 15% stat growth in stamina, you can go about it quite a different ways, deciding which one you feel more comfortable with. So you can go for the 18-star stamina sparks, combination of stamina and a little bit of power, combination of power with a little bit of stamina, whichever it's going to be, or 18-star power sparks. So depending on what spark combination you can go with, you can consider different decks. For the first 2 spark combinations, you can either go for 2 speed, 1 power, 2 wit plus recall, if you want to make sure you max out the speed stat. Or you can go for 1 speed, 1 power, 3 wit plus recall, if you are sure that you can max out speed stat with just a single speed card. So as for the other 2 combinations, you can also choose between 2 speed, 1 stamina, 2 wit for recall, or 1 speed, 1 stamina, 3 wit for recall for pretty much essentially the exact same reasons. As for what cards you are going to be using, assuming that they are going to be MLB, we are always going to be sticking with Akira-san Black, Biko Pegasus, Sweep Tosho, and Shinko Windy as of the current moment, but in the future we are going to be getting the Mate speed card, so that's probably going to be getting a much better usage in the future, right? So for the stamina card, we're going to be rolling with Super Cree, but for the power, we do have Rise Shower SSR for Corner Recovery, or Well-Fed Daiwa for a bunch of white recoveries that work on Oguri. For the weird cards, Fire Motion, Fuku, Sunday, Taekyon, they're all going to be viable. And if you're wondering what stats to aim for when it comes to CM8, ideally 1200 speed, 901 plus stamina, 8 to 900 power, around 450 guards, as well as much width as humanly possible. Now talking about Christmas Biwa, due to the nature of the unique, you really cannot use it for anything other than the pace chaser, and in order to make her work, you need to minimize the odds of her falling below 4th place. So for this particular setup, you need to have at least 1 late or end closer so you can bump up Biwa's placing in terms of the position. You have an easier time activating a unique if you're in a lobby filled with late surges and end closers compared to a lobby with front runners and pace chasers just like CM7. So what if you encounter lobbies with more pace chasers than late on ends? In that particular instance, you could go for the groundwork activation, which will make sure you're in front of the other pace chasers. Now keep in mind, while falling below 4th place will render your unique pretty much effectively useless, the same can be said for Biwa when she's in 1st place. So even though she can't activate a unique while in the 1st place, she can still activate it the moment she falls into 2nd. However, this is quite risky because you can get selected as the lucky pacer in a lobby with 0 front runners and you're pretty much always in 1st place, which effectively once again renders the unique worthless. In short, her unique is extremely pace oriented, and you have to figure out a way that can decrease the odds of Biwa falling below 4th place but prevent her from taking the 1st place. Now talking about the rest of the skills she has access to, one of the skills she has is the gold version of Home Stretch Haste in Body and Mind. It will activate the moment your Uma enters into the last spurt during the late race, and she also has access to the Pace Chaser skill Prepare to Pass, which increases your speed and will activate at any point on the time in the final track if you're 5th or above. She also has straightaway acceleration, which increases your acceleration on any straight, but for the most part, this skill is really unreliable, especially during CM8 when there are literally 3 different straight lines, so you have to gamble that it activates on the 2nd track while also hoping it activates late enough so they can accelerate into the late race. While on the topic of straightaway skills, she also has access to Pace Chaser straightaway, which increases the speed at any point of the straight, which is going to be better than acceleration skills for the most part. On the Gold Recovery VIP pass, it will activate when the race has been going on for at least 5 seconds, long trek, and you have overtaken the target. So similar to how people say Iron Will is a bad recovery, VIP pass also falls in the same category because it is simply way too inconsistent when it comes to activating. Lastly, she has access to 3 green skills, which are pretty much not too much to be said over here because if it activates, then it will activate. So for Biwa, essentially the most consistent way of building her is either 18 stamina or stamina plus power, and for both scenarios, running 2 speed, 1 power, 2 weight with Rico will be a best slot deck. What can be said about support cards in Oguri can also be applied over here because Biwa doesn't really need a bunch of recoveries. Unlike Oguri, you can just settle for one single gold recovery, either Meisho from Rice Shower or Race Planner from Welfare Daiwa. But keep in mind that getting Race Planner is going to be dependent on RNG. So for the final stats for Biwa, it's pretty much going to be the exact same for Christmas Oguri, which is 1200 speed, 901 stamina, power, guts, and as much weight as possible. Now, one important note for this particular video is why Christmas Oguri might fall off sooner than expected. So with how early we've gotten Runaway, Spot Struggle, Dueling in the November 11th update, we can expect evolution skills to come early to global as well. So for evolution skills, there are upgraded versions of gold skills. You can evolve gold skills after your career having fulfilled certain conditions, which are different for every single unit. In theory, it should make Christmas Oguri stronger, which is not wrong, but thanks to every single Uma having the ability to evolve skills, Christmas Oguri is one of those units that will get power crept the most when they are introduced. Oguri can evolve 2 skills, Gourmand and Innate Experience, into Gluttonous Regiment and First Hand Christmas Miracle respectively. Gluttonous Regiment upgrades Gourmand from 0.035 to 0.075, which is a very nice stamina upgrade. Then First Hand Christmas Miracle is the same as Innate Experience with the bonus of a 0.015 stamina recovery. Now, while the evolved Gourmand is very strong, the unfortunate thing is there is gonna be an Uma that released before Christmas Oguri, and that is Major Dober. The introduction of evolved skills actually made Major Dober stronger than Christmas Oguri because she could evolve a gold debuff skill, which is gonna be All Seeing Eyes, into a skill that increases target speed. So thanks to that update, a bunch of other Umas actually caught up to Christmas Oguri in terms of strength, while Christmas Oguri stopped being such a dominant powerhouse because all of the upgrades are tied to stamina instead of speed or acceleration. So when it comes to the inheritance aspect, for Christmas Oguri, her unique is pretty universal when it comes to who can be used on, but do keep in mind that if you want to use this inherited unique, which isn't really going to be that advised because you'll be sacrificing a lot of skill points just for it to work, you will need to buy 3 recoveries to proc it, so do be more careful with your skill point consumption. She can also be used relatively easily for a Winter Runner Spark farming, which is going to be used for CM 8, 9, 10, set during the winter. While the unique can be pretty flexible, the same can't be said about other skills she can acquire, so if you're someone who prefers farming parents in the Unity Cup scenario, chances are going to be getting a lot of skills related to like pace, late, mild, as well as medium. Now, of course, you can get skills that are pretty much universal from Unity Training Burst, but you're more likely than not to get skills that work for one of the aptitudes you don't care about, which brings me to the thing I said at the beginning of the video. She has the same aptitude as original Oguri, which means you have 5 different aptitudes at the start with the A, and if you want to farm long sparks of Oguri, you also need to raise the long to A, which will make you run 6 different aptitudes with A rank, making it incredibly difficult to actually farm the exact right sparks for your Umas. If you're doing parent runs in UI Finale, you don't have to worry about it to the same extent as people who farm parents in Unity Cup. Not only do they have to pray to get the pink sparks they want at the end of the career, but they also have to pray that they get the skills they want from the burst. On the other hand, when it comes to Christmas Biwa as inheritance Uma, you should use her as a grandparent most of the time because the unique shouldn't be bought by anyone, it's just that bad. When it comes to farming sparks, she has an easier time getting a useful pink spark because she only has 4 aptitude with turf, medium, long, and pace. And if you prefer farming parents in Unity, you're almost encouraged not to raise any other aptitudes just to increase the odds of you landing on the right A rank. So at the end of this video, should you pull on Christmas Oguri banner and who should you aim for? So compared to Major Dober, where not only is the Uma strong herself, but her inherit is also extremely strong, on top of the fact that it was the only Uma on the banner, the Christmas Uma banner has both Oguri and Biwa. You not only have to pray that you have to get a 3-star Uma, but you have to pray that it is the right one you want, similar to, for example, Kira-san Black as well as, you know, Satoru Diamond. So unless you're sure they can get the Uma you want from this banner, you chase meta, or you want to get Oguri so they can run her in the Arima Kenan CM8, do not pull this banner. However, if you do not want to or you can't pull on that banner, there will be other ways to obtain them in the future, which I advise on using a different Uma, because during the 1st anniversary update, you'll be able to buy a $20 ticket which allows you to redeem any Uma released up until the 1st anniversary, which does include Christmas Umas. So after all that, if you are the one to get one of the Christmas unit, whether it be from the banner or the 1st anniversary, which one should you go for, which is gonna be pretty much, without a shadow of a doubt, Christmas Oguri. So hopefully this video was helpful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you guys are going to be putting for Christmas Oguri, I kind of just dumped like almost not even almost, I went a hard pity for 200 pulls for my major Dober. The funds are gonna be a little bit sus, but we'll see how that's gonna be going. Word of the day is gonna be, it's not even crystals anymore. Smash the like and subscribe button, and see you guys for more Pokkecorp content. Bye bye.